Dr. Dana Tassone with participants in HFT4295 discussing Chapter 13, Leadership Awareness. In the leadership section, this is the first chapter of 3 actually. This one will discuss, give you an overview of leadership concepts. The next one will discuss leadership practices, and the third chapter will discuss organizational behavior and leadership intervention. As always, just follow along in the book with this presentation. I believe the chapter starts on page 275, and these are the objectives of the chapter. First, we're going to understand the relationships of leaders, followers, and the environment. There are 3 things when you talk about leadership. You talk about the leaders themselves, those individuals who are their followers, and they choose to be their followers, and the environment or the situation. And then we'll discuss characteristics associated with leadership traits, those things inherent to the leader. And next will be recognizing types of interactions that are associated with transactional and transformational leadership. And then we move into a few theories of employee motivation. 2 types of theories: content theories and process theories. Content theory consists of the content of motivational factors, and process theories, which content theories are more or less psychology, and process theories are more or less sociology, and they have to do with actual processes used in the workplace for employee motivation. And next we apply those motivational strategies to managing workers and recognize the differences in motivational differences. So there are various aspects that have to do with leadership practice, and there's a ton of research in this subject. And to be quite honest, as I think I mentioned in the next chapter, the research is not yet able to really describe the phenomenon of leadership. But in this area, this section of the chapter, we're trying to understand and teach leadership the 3 independent factors that are involved in leadership. And the first is to observe behaviors, try to identify characteristics, then to understand the relationships with followers, and to be able to analyze contributions of the environment. So this gives you the 3, think of a triangle, I think it's in the book. Think of a triangle, the 3 components of leadership: the leader, the followers, and the environment. Whenever you see the word environment in leadership terms, we're talking about the situation. Later on we'll talk about situational leadership. As we've said many times throughout the course, leadership is one thing, management is another. The reason that we want managers to be leaders is because it's the most powerful influence tool that we have when it comes to managing organizations. And the reason that we're talking about leadership now is that you already know all of the aspects having to do with management, and now we talk about the most powerful of influence skills, that being leadership. So important that we dedicate 3 chapters to it. And as you know from your experiences, not all managers are leaders, and not all leaders are managers. Organizational leaders are those managers, those people in appointed positions, they have formal authority, who have personal power to influence individuals toward constructive objectives or goals. And then I begin a discussion about the traditional models and theories of leadership. And as I already said, the first attempt to understand this phenomenon of leadership falls within the domain of trait theories. And that has to do with the leader. It's totally focused on the leader. It doesn't focus on the followers. It doesn't focus on the environment, just the leader. And this theory, this set of theories, attempts to cite personal characteristics which help to determine to what extent leaders actually gravitate toward transactional versus transformational leadership styles, and what gives them the power to even engage in the most shallow style of transactional, and then what about these others who are so advanced that they are able to engage in transformational relationships with followers. And then as you scroll through the sections of the chapter, we give you a lot of it is what you probably already know that apply to leadership situations. And we talk about purpose, mission, and vision, building and sharing of power. Leadership is all about power, personal power. We talk about self-analysis. I go on to describe contextual relationships and emerging theories and models, and attempts by the literature to develop the improvement of leadership relation. Then I go on to talk about the two major aspects of leadership. There's leadership in the moment, leadership during the day, with an individual group of followers, and there will be transactions that occur. We talked about transactions extensively back in chapters, I believe, 3 and 4. And these transactions occur, and the leader is influencing people during those transactions, and that process is known as transactional leadership. Transformational leadership occurs when the leader identifies a person with potential and engages in a development relationship with that person, a growth relationship, and the leader now becomes a mentor or modeler to that person, helping him or her achieve his or her potential based on their own personal goals for growth. Now, if you see transformation, that means growth, and growth means change. You have to move from one thing to the other. So we move into a discussion of the nature of change and change agentry that is practiced by transformational leaders. And then that brings us to the concept of motivation, which is the willingness to do something on the part of the followers. There are two types of motivational theories, and these theories come from psychology. One set of theories are called content theories, and I gave you just a couple of the most popular and prominent content theories. And then the other set of theories have to do with the processes of motivating people in the workplace. So within the domain of content theories, you heard about this in grade school. The most prominent theory out there is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it basically says that given an environment, given a situation, you are all in situations right now where you are experiencing certain priorities. And those priorities, according to Maslow, are listed in needs fulfillment hierarchy. And given what you're experiencing right now, there are certain aspects that are more important than other aspects. And Maslow tells us, of course, that as you satisfy these needs, these lower order needs, then the higher order needs start to become prominent in your life, and they lead all the way up to self-actualization. And I give you a detailed description of that in the chapter. Well, if we compare Maslow's hierarchy to another popular theory developed by Frederick Herzberg, and it's called the two-factor theory. Interestingly, I think I say this in the book, Frederick Herzberg was a protege of Maslow, and then there was a break in their relationship because of a difference in theoretical opinions. And so the way I always describe Herzberg's theory is to compare it to Maslow's theory, because he really stole it anyway. And where Maslow said this pyramid consists of motivators, Herzberg deviated and said, no, these lower things are not motivators, just the higher things, the higher order things. And the lower things are hygiene factors. And what he was trying to say was, and he was talking specifically about working relationships. What he's trying to say is, in a working relationship, when the lower order needs that you see right next to Maslow's pyramid, when those things are absent, people become dissatisfied. So they aren't motivators, those lower things. They're potential dissatisfiers. And he is saying, but if those items are satisfied, they cease to be strong, urgent needs, then you can motivate people through the higher order needs. And then the engineers started getting involved in this whole motivation game, along with the psychologists, and we come up with three concepts that you know all too well, and those are job rotation, job enlargement, job enhancement. Job rotation just means moving from one job to another. This concept came up during the early Industrial Revolution, where people did very, very limited scope types of work. They would do one thing. A person might put rivets in something as it goes down the assembly line. And the theory there was, the engineering theory was, well, you move the person around, that way they're not so bored, and if they're not so bored, then they'll be happier, and if they're happier, they'll do a better job. They'll be motivated to work harder. And then another concept, which unfortunately is misused in the workplace, is called job enlargement. And that's where you don't get any more money, you don't get any more power, you don't get any more autonomy, you just get more work. And you know that this happens to the good workers in your team. The good workers end up doing more and more work for the same pay, and the other people can do less and less. So it's a backfire thing for those people who don't understand how to do that. And then the one that we've been talking about pretty extensively in the course has to do with empowerment. When you think of empowerment, think of job enrichment. What's job enrichment? You have a job. You're an agent. You're a front desk agent. You're not just an agent. You are empowered. You have autonomy. Autonomy means freedom. You have the ability to make things right for a guest. You have more status than what a standard starting front desk agent would have had in the past. Your job is enriched, and oftentimes that includes compensation that goes along with it. It's enriching the job, and that is considered by the engineers to be a motivational factor.